Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on board on another Argos Association of Regional Tourist Guides of Slovenia program. My name is Mateja, and I'm a local guide here from the capital of Slovenia, Ljubljana. Most probably you know that on Mondays we stream in English. On Wednesdays, we stream in Slovenian language, and then Saturdays, we usually book for all other languages because we have lots of guides who do tours in many different languages of the world. So today I would really like to share with you some stories of the oldest part of Ljubljana. A lot of times on our tours in person, we actually do not go that far because most of the time we spend in the area of the city center, like Prešeren Square, Three Bridges, Butcher's Bridge, Dragon's Bridge, Cathedral, and I would say also maybe the City Hall and the Congress Square. However, this part, I think it's very cute, and I would really like you to spend some more time and discover also this part of the city. Now I will turn the camera because I don't want you to watch me all the time because there are many very interesting sites, just that you will see how interesting the whole area here around me is. So I will turn the camera to the back camera and that you will see that I'm actually at the moment near our river of Ljubljanica. So in Ljubljana, actually nothing without the river of Ljubljanica. At the moment, I am facing with my camera towards so-called Cobbler's Bridge, done by our famous architect Josef Flečnik, and then further that would be direction towards Three Bridges, Prešeren Square, the market area, and the Dragon's Bridge. But as I said, also this southern part of the city is also very interesting, and a lot of people like to spend their time off here on the riverbanks of the city of the river of Ljubljanica towards south. This part is the area called Breg, B-R-E-G, and in this area we have every Saturday when the months are warmer, art market, and definitely also antiquity market on Sunday. So this is something that you should not miss. It's all what we are facing now. It's all on the left riverbank. Then further down, we have another bridge, which is called St. James's Bridge. I don't know if you heard, but there is a very popular pilgrimage place in Spain called Santiago de Compostela. And if you wanted to pilgrim to that part of Spain, to Santiago de Compostela, from the eastern part of Europe, that would be, let's say, from the area of today's Croatia, and then here through Slovenia towards west, then you needed to cross this bridge again as well. And in the area where I am at the moment, also the main church, the main parish is actually St. James's Parish. All that because of all these pilgrims that people accompanied towards the final destination, and that would be Santiago de Compostela. At the moment, I'm showing you another sculpture. There are so many in Ljubljana. I think you really need to spend more time here in our area. And this is one of the newest ones. And this beautiful lady that is lying just along the river of Ljubljanica is presenting our goddess. On the southern part of the city, we have the marshland called Ljubljansko barje. It's also a part of your UNESCO heritage, one tiny part, which has some remains from the pile dweller periods. That would be like 6,000 years ago. And in that time, people worshiped the goddess of Ekorna. So this beautiful sculpture just along the river of Ljubljanica represents this Ekorna. And as I said, we are now in the oldest part of the city. We are on the right riverbank. So Ljubljanica is flowing from south, that would be this direction, then towards north. I'm slightly turning the camera so that you will get an impression where we are. So towards north, I mentioned before, the Cobbler's Bridge, the Three Bridges, and right in the area of Three Bridges, Ljubljanica is then turning the direction towards east. And it's flowing further to Zagreb, the capital of Croatia, then Belgrade, the capital of Serbia. And in Belgrade, Ljubljanica is together with Sava River flowing into the Danube. So that means that if I threw the bottle with a message here on these river banks, most probably that would reach pretty soon Danube River in Belgrade, but also Black Sea area far away from here. We have, in fact, also an interesting story, love story, that I will share with you later when I'll enter the old part of the city. The most important is that you know that here in this area where I am at the moment, so the right riverbank of the city of Ljubljana and the river of Ljubljanica, we used to have city walls. So all people were really nicely protected. The river of Ljubljanica was a kind of a moat that you didn't need to build, so that was really very practical. Then here we used to have the walls, city walls, and there were narrow buildings of the old part of the city. I'm sharing with that with you very soon, near the so-called Stari Trg. And there we are going to have a chance to see our castle as well, because the second, let's say, most important part why this city was built here is also the castle hill. Namely, the castle hill stretches 70 meters higher than the level of the river. By the way, we are now approximately 300 meters above the sea level. And from the castle hill, you have an excellent, let's say, viewing point, a controlling point to see where your enemy is coming from. And in the past, of course, that was very important. So the viewing point at the top, the river of Ljubljanica, and the oldest part of the city, so built between the river and the castle. And that's why everything was so narrow over here. You know, all the houses, they had like 2 or maximum 3 window aces. That was really not much, but enough for people to be on the safe side. So now I would like to show you the orange building with the red roof, and then behind, most probably you notice there are also 2 flags. Now it's not so visible, but still I hope you believe me that this is the point where our castle tower is. And now we are already in so-called Stari Trg. So let me show you the sign TRG. TRG in our language, that means square, Trg, square or market. By the way, it's the same in our language, square or market. And Stari, that means old, right? And this is the area where all these houses were so narrow and tall in order to have enough room for everyone. For example, the direction where these 2 ladies are coming from, there are some houses with just 2 window aces. And they said, no, 2 window aces, so we'll have enough room for everyone. But of course, you know how we people are. There are always exceptions. Always there are some people who would like to have more. And some people said, no, 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 we would like to have 1 more window ace. So it was allowed to have 3 window aces, a house with 3 window aces, but they needed to pay more tax. That was so-called window taxation, right? If you see a palace that is now bigger, let's say like this gray one, or I will turn around to show you this excellent Baroque palace, light green with wide windows. By the way, this is the seat of our music academy for music. Maybe that's why you heard the music. So this is already Baroque period. What happened here? Well, people simply bought 2 or 3 houses, joined them together, and then let's say from 1700s on, that was not a problem because there were not so many enemies around the city anymore, and the city stretched also to the left riverbank. But until then, everything actually happened in this area here. We have also the fountain. Now even the water is running, so that means that nights are warmer. And in this area, at the moment, we have the Haircurl Fountain. Original, you're going to see of this sculpture in our city hall. The copy is here for the last 30 years. But in the past, believe it or not, we had here a linden tree. Linden tree. Linden tree is a typical Slovenian tree, and every village and also the square in the middle used to have linden tree. So people gathered under the linden tree on Sundays. And there were also a lot of dances organized on Sundays because during the week, people had to work. But on Sunday, there was also time in the morning to go to the church, to the service, then at home lunch, and in the afternoon, dances under the linden tree. And here happened a very interesting story that one young lady from Ljubljana, Ursula was her name, or Urška, she was very picky, very nosy, no, not every boy was good enough for her. And anyway, she was an innkeeper's daughter. Oh, there is a first aid. There, she was a innkeeper daughter. She was slightly richer, and she said that not every boy is good enough for her. So she waited lots of Sundays here under the linden tree for the right man to ask her for a dance. And then legend says that finally one Sunday, a young, nice, elegantly dressed man came, asked her for a dance, and she was really happy. And she said, "Wow, finally the right one has arrived." And then they started to dance. But it happened that she could not follow him anymore because he was dancing so quickly, and she could not follow him anymore. So the legend says that he took her actually, so they danced around the linden tree, and then he took her through this narrow street left from this light green building directly into Ljubljana River, so where we started our tour. And since then, nobody saw them again. So people were so disappointed, that they lost the richest girl of Ljubljana, that they decided to cut the linden tree, and later on they placed this Haircurl fountain. And by the way, of course, people needed to have a fountain in the city because there was no water supply as we have it today. Yeah, this all happened here in Stari Trg. And there were a lots of tradesmen. Trg Square market, people traded with goods, and a lot of them came from the, let's say, eastern part of Europe, especially Croatia. They entered the city. I will show you later on one place. And then they continued across the bridge towards Italy, we could say also Spain. And I don't know if you heard, but Saint Christopher, oops, now like this, Saint Christopher is the patron of all people who travel. So that means also tourists, right? And above this house, number 1, Gornji Trg number 1, on the first floor, maybe you notice there is a small, tiny relief of St. Christophorus, who is the patron of all these tradesmen who traveled every day. And people said that before tradesmen continued with their journey, they prayed to St. Christophorus here next to the relief at this house, number 1. Well, most probably you noticed that this is now already another square. So there is still written Trg, T-R-G, but it's Gornji. And you are right, this is already upper square. So here we have actually 2 squares joining together. We just say old town of the city, but we are going slightly uphill, and that's why it's called Gornji. And the one that we are leaving now behind us, it's called the Old Square, right? And the street that it's taking you to the right from this green palace, that would bring you actually directly to our city hall on Mestni Trg. So City Square. Yep. Let's go further. Let's go further because I mentioned that this is actually artist delight, that this is a kind of a Ljubljana's Montmartre. Most probably you know that in Paris, on the hill, there are lots of artists who are living and also creating a lot of their artworks. And something like that is happening also here in Ljubljana. Coffee shops and restaurants now they can already have terraces, but here in the old square, it is still pretty quiet. And that's why lots of people are also renovating their apartments, their workshops, and so on. But very soon, everything will become very vivid and interesting. And then you can imagine how it is if you're an artist, you come out of your atelier, you observe people, and then, of course, you get also an inspiration. And the street is really very cute. Look, it's getting more and more narrow. And at the end, you even see like white grayish church. This is St. Florian's Church, and this is also the place that I'm going to show you very soon. On the right-hand side, we have one example of a tiny wine bar where you can get some tasting of local wines. There is also a web page. Thank God we have also web pages and online shopping so that you don't need to come in person, that you can get excellent Slovenian wines. Also online, of course, you cannot taste them, but still I think it's a great idea, right? If the shop is so tiny as this one here, that's why it's written here, no? It has to be just for one person, but we have to wear a mask inside. Yeah. And here I think I like this saying, I cook with wine. Sometimes I even add it to the food. That means that people drink and prepare nice food, Slovenian food, more or less. On the left-hand side of this street, there is one gallery. It's called Mak, poppy flower. Very nice. Sometimes they do even have exhibitions on the street. Sometimes they have also, let's say, a kind of an artist weekend. So definitely this is the time when artists, even small artists, have a chance to present their work, not just in their workshops, but also outside on the street. This one is also very old, well-known, coloring of the silk, bow ties, scarf, dresses. A lot of very nice restorated houses. For example, this one has a sign that in this house, in the period between, let's say, 1740 and 1756, so that means the middle of Baroque time, 1700, lived a very popular Slovenian artist, Valentin Metzinger. Yes, most probably that does not sound Slavic, but I have to tell you, he came from the area of today's, I think, Strasbourg and so on. But since this was all one united area, a lot of these artists came to our part as well. We were a part of Austrian monarchy anyway, and he did a lot of exceptional Baroque paintings. Some of them you can see in the National Gallery, but some of them also in the churches here around. Yeah, a lot, of course, also restaurants, tiny, cute little restaurants with Slovenian food. That's very popular at the moment. Some of them still closed, some of them are opening. But I think when the weather will be better, everything will function much better than before. And over here, we have a part of the upper square, which is actually a crossroad. This street on the left-hand side, straight ahead of us, it's taking us to the castle. Maybe you see Ljubljanski grad, Ljubljana's castle. Here it's written, right? Very cute, narrow street, slightly steep, but I think people like it very much. On the left-hand side, maybe you see the building where Francesco Roba lived. Francesco Roba is the author of the sculptures of the fountain of three Carniolian rivers. So you can imagine that this was a very nice place in the city where he could do his art. And then, as I said, St. Florian's Church, Roman Catholic Church, but otherwise today has a Macedonian community, their church here, or services, because they don't have their own church. And then further down, okay, there are still some cars, left and right park, but this is dead end. At the very end, you cannot get through. But in the past, this was the street where all the traffic from the eastern part of the Balkans entered the city. So there were city walls, there was a city gate, and then you entered the city. So everything was controlled, right? Who came in and out, because gate was closed in the evening and then opened early morning again. And in those houses, for example, on the right-hand side, also a lot of artists work. So that means that they have their own atelier. So when you'll be in Ljubljana, I would be very happy to take you to one of these hidden treasures. Now, let me turn the camera because I think this was So this was it, dear ladies and gentlemen. It was a short presentation. I would say what we have here in Ljubljana, a kind of invitation that you will put us on our bucket list or on your bucket list, that you will spend or save enough time for us. At the moment, we don't have so many visitors, so we are very happy if you join us on the virtual tours. They can be also privately organized for you and your party only. And of course, we are really looking forward to give you some more information, to prepare really excellent plans for your tour for Slovenia and Ljubljana. Thank you very much for watching us. Don't forget, every Monday at 5 p.m., this is our local time, we are here for you to give you some suggestions in English, on Wednesdays in Slovenian, and then on Saturday in any other languages. Thank you very much for being with us and wish you a very pleasant week. Pa-pa.